As a child, I was always sort of very interested in clothes. I'd actually get my own school uniform tailored and altered once I got it from the school. So I think there was always this attraction towards clothing, and NIFT had just opened in India. And when I saw what they were doing, and I thought, okay, this is something that I probably maybe I can do. And it just so happened that one thing led to another, that in that sort of similar time period, I was asked to model, and I got into the modeling circuit, and because of which I actually got to know what a fashion designer does, what a fashion show is, and what was what goes on behind the scenes as well as while one was on the ramp. And that's how I figured, even before I'd finished school, that very clearly that this is my calling and this is what I want to do.
It was at the National Institute of Fashion Technology. I was almost as new as them in that institute, only I was a teacher and he was a student at that point of time, and I think he was the first few batches over there. I did notice Ashish, though I didn't really teach him initially, but yes, he was one guy who did stand out even then, and one did think that where is he going to go from here?
While I was still at NIFT, I started interning with Rohit Bal. He had just sort of started about 3-4 years before that.
He was really eager, and I think that is an incredible quality for any creative person. Is really when you're really hungry for what you need to do. You want it. He just came to me and I said, yes, come on, you start from tomorrow. It was as simple as that.
I would finish my work in school and then go to his workshop and sort of work with him into almost into sometimes late hours of the night.
The first thing that worked really well with Ashish and me was that his sensibility was very close to mine. Calm simplicity that we both shared in our aesthetics.
In the August of 1991 is when I said, I told Rohit, I think it's time for me to move on. And I spent those 3-4 months putting together my first collection.
He learned from the best, he trained at the best, he studied at the best. But the more important thing is that he feels he is one of the best. So I think that's really important, when the fashion designer feels that he's reached and he can do something on his own.
I was a student at NIFT, and he was one of the few pass-outs from school who were out there doing their own thing and who were experimenting.
I mean, it was a challenge from space to, I had 50,000 rupees to start with, from where we packaged. I had 2 machines. I used to cut the actual clothing myself and pattern make myself, and then get 2 people to just sew it.
When we started in 1991, there was no industry. I think there were 4 or 5 designers. There were hardly any retail options.
Since I started off as a menswear designer, I spent the first 5-7 years completely focused, just doing that as my forte.
He had a very clear-cut sort of vision, and I think very concise and thought-out way and path on which he had to sort of go forward.
He brings a very contemporary twist to a very gentleman's jacket or a gentleman's suit.
Initially, Ashish was very well known for his menswear, and I think he still does some fabulous menswear. And then he moved to women's wear, and you saw the menswear influence in the women, which was also a very distinctive look at some level.
It was 1999 where for the first time I started making a lot of the same concepts and the knowledge that I had from my men's clothing. I started incorporating into women's wear.
I do think his clothes are not for a regular woman. It's definitely for a slightly more intelligent, exposed, evolved, emancipated woman.
You cannot compartmentalize Ashish and say he's a menswear designer, he's a women's wear designer. You can't, it's very difficult to decide. He has fans in both.
It's almost like choosing between the two children. But having said that, I think with my men's clothing, I think this child is big enough and is in college, whereas the other one's still in school. The Khajuraho Millennium collection that we did in 2000, when the government of Madhya Pradesh invited me to do this, was in itself a big honor because nobody had ever done this before.
I think that was possibly the first, if not the only, show that has been done with the temple as the backdrop.
It was an uphill task to begin with, but I think we had such a good time putting it together. There was a lot of hard work that went into that entire production. But I think that was the end of 1999, beginning 2000, where I think it sort of set the tone for the rest of the decade. That everything from there on was big. Everything was supersized. I think it's just set the ball rolling.
There was definitely a shift in his look, and there was definitely a sort of finesse which came to the whole look and feel of his collection.
From the day that he decided, no, I'm not going to be dictated by where the money is coming from, what the markets demand, and I'm only going to do what my heart tells me, and that is to make beautiful, simple and aesthetic clothing that can, over years, be called classics, right? When he swore to just be true to himself as a designer, I think after that it was his own design signature developed really fast.
What started emerging was the Ashish Soni line, which was clean, which was sharp, which was progressive, but not in the way of experimenting for the sake of experimenting. It still remained wearable, practical, sharp fashion.
One thing that I believe in very strongly is less is more, and that philosophy to be able to translate into clothing has been a great challenge in a market where everybody only wanted very embellished clothes, a lot of heavy embroidery or very ornate clothing. And especially in the 90s, when I was extremely attracted to the school of minimalism, where everything was less, everything was simple, straight lines.
His style is very distinctive. He has this slightly masculine touch to the whole thing, this slightly engineered touch to the whole thing. He works a lot with surface textures and embellishments, and he just creates beautiful shapes.
The attention to detail, the beauty, there's a calmness to his clothes. That to me is what really, really stands out. There's a certain feeling of tranquility when you see his clothes. He has it in his personality. When you meet him, he immediately puts you at ease. And I think his clothes are the same. They immediately, even though they're tailored and structured, they put you at ease. They never seem too intimidating.
It's not difficult to correlate the man's sensibilities as a person with his clothes. So when somebody says, you know what, Ashish Soni's clothes are very understated and subtle and this and that, I said, look, you could use the same phrase for the guy because that's what he is what his work will show.
God lies in details, and I think Ashish believes in that philosophy as well.
You notice the collection for two reasons. Either it's extremely bad or extremely nice. Ashish Soni as a brand is a predictable, good collection. You can expect when you know that he's part of the fashion week or he's hosting a show somewhere. It's predictably interesting and predictably nice.
What's important is the feel-good factor. You need to wear that jacket and people must say that, wow, what a jacket. And I love it. I love the way it fits. I love the way it looks. I think if you get that feedback from a client, the rest is history. You know, you've achieved it all. When I showed my collection, Sounds of Silence, Fern Malice, who headed IMG Fashion in New York, came up to me after the show and said that, you know, this is just fantastic and it was absolutely international, and that I think it's high time that you cross the barrier now and sort of break into what I actually call now the big playing arena. About a week later, I got a call from her saying that, listen, would you like to come to New York and do the show in New York? And I just, you know, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I said, yes, of course. I mean, this is a huge opportunity. But having said that to her, it was still a humongous cost and a big task to put together.
It also meant different business challenges for me, to raise funds, to get to know talent there, find models, find agencies, find retail situations, because the idea was to also build a business there along with just showing there.
Talking from my end of it, it was a completely different work experience, fitting models that came in sort of at pre-appointed times, one at a time. Ashish was on top of it right through, and he's also had sort of a very strong team, as in a one-man team, which is Smita.
You know, I was launched amongst the 10 upcoming designers in America, which they had collected from across the world. And the fact that I was the first Indian, suddenly, both the media in India sort of reacted to it in a very different way. Fortunately for me, the show went off really well. We had, the who's who of the fashion world at my debut. And from there, I think my career path really changed.
I don't think anyone's ever going to forget that, he put India really proud. He was on the cover of International Herald Tribune.
She has 600, 700 shows to see. She's very choosy and picky about what she sees. I think the show finished and I was backstage, and to my shock, she came backstage. She had very interesting and unusual questions and just said, this is fantastic, keep it going. People claim that if the International Herald Tribune write about you, even if it's negative, you've achieved a lot. So thereafter, 2 days later, when the review came out, I've sort of just thanked God and said that, maybe this is what I've been waiting for.
The Indian designers have taken the beating from Susie Mankis many times. So his first show itself, where Susie Mankis attended at Bryant Park, it was such a huge success, and he was ecstatic. The phone never stopped ringing after that.
I think that gives you a lot of confidence when you have customers, big customers like Barney's, and customers who are sitting, and Susie Menkes, critics, all of them sitting there and being there for his show. I think that gives a fashion designer a big high, and I think that's what gave him the boost to feel he's made it.
Fashion is coming to age. When I heard Ashish Soni is 20 years, and it seems like just yesterday that we thought he was like a newcomer, and now 20 years, and it's really been something. I mean, to be able to do the kind of men's fashions he's done.
Surprised we got here so fast. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's been 20 years. It feels like time has just flown. In a creative environment, every day is different. I really don't feel the bulk of 20 years. Every day has been exciting.
I almost feel it's like this is the interval and the best is yet to come. And so hopefully another 20 years are about to start. New extensions of what the Ashish Soni brand believes in, whether it's accessories or it's venturing into the home market or it's space design, things that perhaps have been exciting, but one has thought about them, but it has never had the time or never had the complete finesse to be able to execute or try.
I think the last 20 years have been all about brand building, and I think the next 20 years are going to be all about business building now, because fortunately the brand is built.
I think my personal sort of goals as far as the brand's concerned, from where it's from a baby to today, is that I wanted to live beyond me. So I'm going to try my hardest going forward that it becomes self-supportive like any other big brand is, that it can't be solely and wholly dependent on me. There can be enough, you can create systems, create professionals. Yes, you can still direct it, but the business needs to be, the brand needs to be bigger than me. That's the future that I think in terms of vision that I hold for the brand.